Be sure to subscribe to the channel and let's promote respect for the Royal Guard together. Let the whole world see how many of us there are. A tourist crossed the line, mocking a guard and trying to make him smile. But the soldier's barely perceptible reaction stunned the crowd and changed everything. What happened next? Let's start from the beginning. The sunlit morning spread across the expansive square in front of Buckingham Palace. The traditional rhythm of London was on full display here. Vibrant flags, the palace's stately architecture, and the silent royal guard standing as a living embodiment of British grandeur. Crowds of tourists buzzed like a hive of bees, but no one dared cross the white line, an invisible boundary separating spectators from the protectors of tradition. Among the crowd stood a man in his 30s, dressed as if he'd come to rule the world. A bright red t-shirt with the bold slogan, "I make history," denim shorts, and chunky white sneakers. His voice was the loudest of them all, and his behavior carried an air of such confidence that some might believe he truly saw himself as the day's central figure. "Who's going to tell me these guys are real?" he shouted, waving his phone in front of him. "Aren't they just mannequins? Let's find out." He glanced at his friends, who chuckled in response, encouraging his ridiculous stunt. A few murmurs rippled through the crowd, and an elderly woman, holding her young grandson, muttered, "What a disgrace! People have forgotten how to respect tradition." The man paid no attention to her remark. His eyes locked on the nearest guard, a tall, well-built soldier with perfect posture and a flawlessly positioned bearskin hat. The guard stood motionless, as if carved from marble. "Watch this. I'm going to make him smile," the tourist shouted, striding toward the white line with an air of bravado. The crowd stiffened. Several people reached for their phones, ready to capture the moment that, as they sensed, would not end well. The tourist stopped just short of the line, his loud voice already disrupting the regal atmosphere. "Hey, buddy, are you even alive? Smile!" he yelled, aiming his phone camera squarely at the guard's face. The guard didn't flinch. His gaze remained fixed on the horizon, but the tension in his clenched jaw betrayed that he heard every word of the mockery. The murmurs in the crowd grew louder, and someone said firmly, "Seriously? This is way out of line." But the tourist wasn't finished. Stowing his phone in his pocket, he smirked and added, "Fine, if he won't smile, I guess it's time to get serious." With that, he raised his hand as if he was about to touch the guard's bearskin hat. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, and the air thickened with anticipation. People held their breath, unable to predict how this brazen provocation would unfold. The tourist stepped over the white line with an air of absolute confidence, as if the world truly belonged to him. Alarmed voices immediately erupted from the crowd. "Hey, that's not allowed! Respect the rules! This isn't a circus!" But the man simply waved dismissively, a crooked smirk spreading across his face as he sauntered up to the guardsman. His phone was already recording everything. "Come on, Mr. Statue, show me some emotion," he shouted, staring directly into the soldier's eyes. The guardsman, tall and imposing, maintained his absolute composure. His unmoving gaze remained fixed in the distance, as if the tourist was nothing more than an annoying fly buzzing nearby. The crowd held its collective breath. Some watched with visible disapproval, while others, unfortunately, pulled out their phones to capture the show. A woman with a child standing in the front row couldn't hold back. "This is disgraceful! How can anyone behave like this in a place like this?" The tourist acted as though he didn't hear her. He turned to his laughing friends, who egged him on with their chuckles. "Watch this. I'm going to make him smile. Come on, Mr. Robot, give me something." He raised a hand, pretending to reach for the guardsman's tall bearskin hat, only to pull it back quickly like a mischievous child testing boundaries. Then he began performing a ridiculous little dance, flailing his arms comically in front of the soldier. The crowd's disapproval grew louder. "Stop this right now!" someone shouted, but the man only got bolder. He leaned in closer to the guardsman's face and let out a loud, mocking laugh before whispering, "Well, hero, how about cracking a smile? Or are you really just a wax figure?" The moment stretched into eternity. Even those filming froze, waiting to see what would happen next. The seconds of tense silence felt like they lasted forever. Then, like a bolt of lightning, the guardsman suddenly stepped forward. His sharp, deliberate movement startled everyone, and the tourist instinctively jumped back, barely managing to keep his phone in hand. "Step back behind the line," the guardsman commanded, his voice loud, clear, and authoritative. "You are violating royal protocol." The crowd, stunned by the sudden reaction, fell silent. Excited murmurs ceased, and a tense stillness overtook the scene. The tourist, who had been the picture of confidence moments earlier, now looked completely shaken. His smirk had disappeared, replaced by a pale, trembling expression. "I'm sorry. It was just a joke. I didn't mean—" he stammered, his voice trembling, his eyes darting around as if searching for an escape. And then, something entirely unexpected happened. The guardsman, never taking his eyes off the man, tilted his head slightly, and for the briefest moment, a genuine, faint smile crossed his lips. It was like a ray of light piercing through storm clouds, a fleeting but unmistakable expression. The crowd gasped audibly. "Did he just smile?" someone whispered, but the words carried across the square like a shout. The tourist froze, caught like a deer in headlights. His confusion quickly turned into an awkward attempt to explain himself. But before he could say more, an officer of the guard stepped forward. The officer, dignified and stern, approached with an air of authority that spoke volumes without words. "Come with me, sir," the officer said coldly, placing a firm hand on the tourist's shoulder. The man tried to respond, but no words came out. He was escorted off the square, his head hung low under the watchful, disapproving eyes of the crowd. And then, as if on cue, the crowd erupted into thunderous applause. It was a standing ovation, not just for the guardsman's poise, but for his unshakable dignity. "What composure! A true professional! I've never seen anything like it." The soldier returned to his position, his face once again a mask of stone. But that brief moment of his smile lingered in the memories of everyone who witnessed it. It was a fleeting glimpse of humanity within the disciplined facade, and it became the defining moment of the day. Morning at Buckingham Palace began differently than usual. This time, tourists stood respectfully behind the white line, and instead of the usual chatter, hushed whispers and admiring comments filled the air. The reason for this change was clear. A video of yesterday's incident had gone viral, gathering millions of views and comments. "He actually smiled! I can't believe it! Such composure! A true professional!" That tourist got a lesson he'll never forget. The guardsman from the video had already been nicknamed the soldier with a smile. Unlike the usual discussions about the strict and serious demeanor of the royal guards, this time people were praising not only his professionalism, but also his humanity. The crowd at the palace was unusually calm. People approached the white line, took photos from a distance, and respectfully observed the guards. No one dared to cross the line, as if yesterday's lesson had left a lasting impression on everyone. A man with his young daughter stopped not far from the guardsman, who stood in his usual stoic pose of unshakable dignity. The father leaned down to his daughter and quietly said, "Look, this is an example of honor and pride for one's country." Then, stepping a little closer, he spoke a bit louder, ensuring the guardsman could hear him. "Thank you for your service. You've reminded us that traditions are what make us stronger." The guardsman gave a slight nod, maintaining his impeccable stance. His face remained as stoic as protocol demanded, but sharp-eyed onlookers might have noticed a faint glimmer in his eyes. It was a moment where professionalism and humanity merged. The sun climbed higher in the sky, its golden rays illuminating the palace and the guardsman's bearskin hat, imbuing the scene with an aura of grandeur. As if on cue, the crowd began to applaud. The sound of their applause filled the square, evoking a sense of pride in the fact that even in the modern world, tradition and honor remain steadfast. This moment became a reminder for all. Dignity can be upheld even while showing humanity.